Jazz greats. Jazz greats. Focus question. What have great jazz musicians contributed to jazz music? The roots of jazz. Can you name a kind of music that was invented in America? It's a kind of music that gets people moving. It can be fast and wild, or it can be slow and melodic. It's even older than rock and roll. Think of a trumpet, saxophone, clarinet, drums, and other instruments blending together. Think of a beat that gets your foot tapping and your hands clapping. Did you think of jazz? If you did, you're absolutely right. Jazz music began in the United States in the early 20th century, but its roots go back to before the Civil War. Jazz is built on a long tradition of African American music. Some of it is inspired by the music that slaves created while living in slave quarters in the southern United States. African Americans who were slaves found that music was one of only ways to express their thoughts, ideas, and their desire for freedom. Another style of music called blues music also came from this African American tradition. Blues and jazz styles of music often blend and overlap with each other. Some of the music was full of sadness, some of it was full of joy. Sometimes people used their voices as instruments, and sometimes they made their own instruments, such as an early version of a banjo. Some of the songs were memorized and passed along from plantation to plantation. Much of the music was improvised. Some people invented it as they went along. Today, improvisation is still at the heart of jazz. Musicians get together and jam or make things up as they go along. They might start with a song they all know, but each musician adds a little bit here and a little bit there, and soon they have a song that's completely unique. Today, many of the great names in jazz are African Americans. Let's meet a few of the most famous jazz performers. Louis Armstrong. Many people consider Louis Armstrong to be the greatest musician in the 20th century. Some call him the father of jazz. He didn't invent jazz music, but he played it in a way that he made people fall in love with it. His music made people happy. They'd never heard someone play a trumpet like he did. Louis Armstrong started out playing a fast style of jazz called Dixieland. Later, he experimented with many different styles. Louis Armstrong was from a poor family in New Orleans, Louisiana. As a child, he stand outside dance clubs and listened to the lively music being played inside. When he was 13 years old, he taught a second-hand cornet, a kind of horn. When he was in his 20s, Louis switched to playing trumpet. Louis was the first person to record scat music. Scat is when the singer uses the voice as an instrument, singing syllables instead of whole words. It might sound like nonsense, but a good singer makes scat sound incredible. What inspired Louis to invent scat singing? Well, he said he dropped his sheet music beat during a record session. He couldn't remember the words, but he knew he had to keep going. So he started singing syllables. Louis's scat style sounded great, and soon other jazz musicians were copying it. Music's my language, Louis once said. He traveled all the world with his trumpet. He couldn't speak other languages, but everyone understood Louis Armstrong when he blew on his horn. Louis Armstrong, born 1901 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Instrument, trumpet, vocals. First recording, age 22. First band, Louis Armstrong and his Hot Five. Popular songs, Hello Dolly, What a Wonderful World, Mac the Knife. Died July 6, 1971. Ella Fitzgerald. Louis Armstrong may have invented scat, but Ella Fitzgerald took that style of singing and did amazing things with her voice. Ella's voice was her instrument. Ella Fitzgerald. Born 1917 in Newport News, Virginia. Popular songs, Stoppin' at the Savoy, A Tisket, A Tasket. Awards, 13 Germany Awards, National Medal of Arts for Lifetime Achievement, 1987, died June 15, 1996. Ella started singing at jazz clubs in Harlem, New York, when she was just 17 years old. She wanted to be a tap dancer, and she entered a talent contest at the famous Apollo Theater. He didn't think her dancing would woo the crowd, so she started singing instead. It was her first time singing in public, and she won the talent contest. Ella went on to sing at popular clubs all over the country and all over the world. She was a regular at the Savoy, one of the hottest jazz clubs in New York City. She started singing with bebop bands, a kind of jazz that first became popular in the 1940s. Bebop has a beat that makes you want to move, and Ella's voice moved with the beat. The whole time she was singing bebop and scat, Ella improvised. She got on stage with some of the best jazz musicians in the world and jammed. Some people called Ella Fitzgerald the Queen of Scat. In 1979, she was named one of the most talented American performers who has ever lived. In 1987, she won the National Medal Awards. Listen to her sing, a tiscat, a tascat, and you'll hear why she's the Queen of Scat. Duke Ellington. His name was Edward Ellington, but ever since he was a teenager, people called him Duke. He dressed with style and always looked elegant, and he brought style and sophistication to his jazz music too. Duke's childhood piano teacher gave up trying to teach him when he was only 7 years old, so he decided to teach himself how to play the piano. Later, he taught himself to read music too. Duke Ellington started performing in jazz clubs when he was 18 years old. When he was 24 years old, he moved to New York and started playing at the Cotton Club in Harlem. Duke was a composer who wrote music that was more melodic than most jazz music in the 1930s and 1940s. He was an exceptional pianist and band leader known for his swing style. One of his most popular songs is Take the A Train, a song he wrote about taking the New York City subway to his home in Harlem. Another well-known song is It Don't Mean a Thing, a song with a relax and that said, I don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Duke wrote more than 1,000 songs during his life. Some of them were complicated jazz symphonies written for entire orchestras. The symphony Black, Brown, and Beige is about the history and music of African Americans. Duke Ellington and his orchestra is one of the best-known bands in jazz history. They toured many countries. The music that Duke Ellington wrote has been played by countless bands all over the world. Duke Ellington, 1899 in Washington, D.C. Carrier, composer, bandleader, and pianist. Band, Duke Ellington and his orchestra. Well-known songs, Take the A Train. Awards, Lifetime Achievement Awards, NARAS. Presidential Medal of Freedom, 1969. Died May 24th, 1974. Other jazz greats. You've met three of the biggest names in jazz: Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Ella Fitzgerald. There are many other jazz artists from the past, some of which we'd like you to meet. Billie Holiday sang the blues. She did amazing things with her voice. Sometimes she sang slowly and you could hear sadness in her voice. Other times she sang bouncy, energetic songs. Billie toured in the late 1930s with a popular band led by Artie Shaw. All the musicians in Artie Shaw's band were white. Many times she was not allowed to stay at the same hotel as the rest of the band. Many restaurants would not let her eat with the rest of the band. She was one of the most popular singers in the United States, yet Billie Holiday met racism in many of the cities she visited. Miles Davis was a trumpet player and a songwriter. His parents sent him to the famous Juilliard School of Music in New York. They wanted their son to study classical music, but Miles loved jazz. New York City was a great place to hear some of the best jazz in the world. Soon he started jamming with some of the great jazz bands in the 1940s. In 1945, Miles Davis made one of the first bebop recordings. Later, he invented his own style of jazz and called it cool jazz. In the 1950s, cool jazz was popular and cool. Miles continued to experiment with different kinds of music. He was later influenced by rock music. Dizzy Gillespie got his nickname from the way he bounced away, joking and dancing on stage. But the name could have easily been applied to his music as well. His music was noted for its speed, energy, and spontaneity. In the 30s and 40s, he collaborated with Thelonious Monk, Ella Fitzgerald, Duke Ellington, and saxophonist Charlie Parker. It was a time crowded with innovators. In 1953, someone accidentally fell on Dizzy's trumpet, bending the bell backward. Dizzy found that he liked the sound of the bent trumpet, and from then on, he had trumpets specially built in that shape. His bent trumpet plus his balloon-like cheeks became his trademark. Near the end of the 20th century, Dizzy was widely known and respected. He was even invited to play at the White House. John Coltrane played tenor saxophone during the 1930s and 1940s in the swing and bebop styles. Like many musicians of the time, he had troubles with drug and alcohol abuse. But John was fortunate to overcome those troubles in the 1950s. He strongly believed that his religion and faith in God had helped him through his addictions. After conquering these problems, John devoted his music to expressing spirituality and faith. John Coltrane's music is complex yet smooth and moving. His most famous recording, Love's Rhyme, is gentle and playful, yet it moves with sophisticated rhythms. Later in his life, John began to experiment with more free from improvisation that moved away from traditional rhythms and melodies. Some of John's many fans didn't like his music, but the experimental style was the beginning of modern free-form jazz. Dave Brubeck is one of the most well-known pianists of all time, as well as an accomplished composer. He was born in 1920 in California. His father was a cattle rancher and his mother was a pianist and music teacher. Even though he played with local dance bands as a teenager, Dave began college with the idea of becoming a veterinarian. He worked as a jazz musician only to pay his way through college, but his love of jazz finally made him decide that he had to make music his life, and he began studying music and composition. In 1958, he formed the famous Dave Brubeck Quartet. Their hit song, Take 5, was the first ever million-selling jazz tune. The music of Dave Brubeck is still relevant today, and he continued to perform before huge crowds and create new music into the 90s. Jazz today. Who's making jazz music today? The answer is lots of people. The jazz style of music has influenced thousands of musicians, even those who do not play jazz. Classical music, rock and roll, and hip-hop all use jazz rhythms, melodies, and improvisational styles. Jazz is also influenced by many other styles of music. Today, jazz performers blend their music with Latin rhythms and instruments, African drumming and singing, Middle Eastern melodies, and music styles from around the world. One popular performer is Wynton Marsalis. He plays the trumpet and performs both jazz and classical music. Wynton has won many Grammy awards and performed at sold-out concerts. The entire Marsalis family consists of talented musicians. Wynton's father, Ellis, is a dedicated pianist and music teacher who taught his sons, Winton, Brantford, Delphio, and Jason to love and play music. Play jazz. Winton works to inspire young people to love jazz. He performs in the Jazz for Young People concerts at Lincoln Center in New York. Jazz band is a popular activity for many high school students today. Thousands of high school bands compete in a jazz festival in New York City each year. The festival is called Essentially Ellington, named after Duke Ellington. There are many other jazz band festivals for young people. All over the United States, young people are discovering the wonders of jazz. Explore more at the library. The best way to explore jazz is by listening to it. Ask your local librarian to help you search through the library's record and CD collection. Your librarians, teachers, parents, or friends may like and listen to jazz. They can help you pick out albums. On the radio, many radio stations play jazz for all or part of the day. Tune in and try to find one of these stations. Listen to the announcer so that you can learn the musicians' names. If you hear some of the musicians listed in this book on the internet. A. In the address window, type www.google.com. B. In the search window, type a word or name you would like to look up, such as jazz, blues, Ella Fitzgerald, and Wynton Marsalis. Click on Google Search. C. Read the colored links. Click on one that looks interesting. When you want to explore more links, click on the back arrow at the top left. D. Try other searches, such as Dizzy Gillespie